The next one is a good friend of mine. I know him very well. Very successful real estate investor in North Carolina. They do a lot of multi-units. They do all kinds of deals, and they've cornered a niche. And so they've also have access to great deals first, and they have a way of building these relationships with these owners of these multi-units in a very creative way. And so please welcome Curtis Waters to the stage. So, Curtis, you're partners with Bonnie and Patrick, who are also there in the front row, and you guys have done very well. Explain to people, what is your business model? And it's interesting too, because you are very similar to like Francie. You started off as their student, and then end up being business partners with them to really growing that too. So, what is your business model?
So our business model is to deal with rentals, whether it's single family or multifamily, under $100,000. And we have benchmarks that Bonnie created that we use to evaluate the opportunities that we take on.
So why buy not more expensive stuff? So you're buying stuff on the lower side cheaper, as opposed to these large, but you guys have a lot of properties and you do a lot of properties, but why the lower market?
It lowers the risk and they cash flow. So we could get 70 or 80% financing and they still cash flow. So the nice thing is we're able to buy properties at an excellent price, improve them, do cash out refis, and double or more the value of these properties.
Give us an example of a deal that you did that was extremely profitable, so we have an idea of the economics of your deal.
So we have I developed a relationship based on work that I had done with code enforcement. And I asked code enforcement after I did 5, I said, do you know anyone else that owns a lot of properties? And I expected, I'll get another 5 or so. And I was surprised. They said, well, we know someone out of state that owns property here that is interested in selling, and they have 100 units. So I went to Bonnie and I said, I want you to partner with me 50-50 on that. And we bought these properties for an average price of $24,000.
In North Carolina?
Yes. Half were vacant, half were occupied. And we were able to renovate those, increase the rents on the ones that were occupied, and it resulted in refinancing these properties down the road and a lot of tax-free cash out of it.
Explain to me, what is the best strategy you advise for people to do in today's market? One, I think North Carolina, very much like Texas, it's a very hot market. Yes. Right? Very desirable in the multi-unit space. People are moving to North Carolina, they're moving to Texas. Obviously, everybody thinks their property is worth more. So what is your strategy in today's market, and why is it working so well?
So my recommendation is to be persistent. I think we heard that yesterday, don't give up.
Right.
In addition, develop relationships.
Give us an idea how you were persistent and how you develop relationships.
So I will go in and I do a lot of those in tandem. So for instance, I had a owner, we bought a 20 unit from him back in 2018. And he started selling off more of what he owned. And he got to the point where he says, well, I got about 50 left and I don't think I'm gonna sell them, I'm gonna leave them to my kids. So I'm a big believer in follow-up and communication. So I would stop in and see this guy every few months. And I come by one day and he still collected rent in cash, had his pistol on the desk. And so a tenant comes in to pay rent and he reaches over and touches his pistol. And the tenant leaves and I said, do you like having to have a pistol on the desk? And he goes, nah, I really don't. He goes, but I don't have the ability to take the online payments like you guys do.
So basically, they're like, I need a couple of days of rent extension.
Yeah.
I can pay now.
So,
I'm going to use that strategy.
yeah.
That is a good strategy. The pistol strategy.
So,
Plata or plomo.
so I asked the guy, I said, do you think your kids want this? I happen to know his son as well. And he goes, nah, I don't really think my sons want it. And I said, well, then why do you do this? He goes, I like the money. And so I proposed, well, what if I paid you about 10 grand a month and, you finance this? And so we struck a deal. And, this happens multiple times because of the relationships.
So a couple of things. So let's say you meet somebody, okay? And you guys then say, someone says to me, check back with me later, or I'm not ready now. Most people never follow up again, right? And you think that when people are like, I want to sell, they're going to think of you. They probably forgot about you, or, and that is why follow up, follow through, follow up, follow through, follow up. And it's interesting, like it's planting seeds. And I think you guys have done very good, a very impressive portfolio. What is it that you're looking for people that are here today?
We're looking to develop new relationships, potential partners, potential funders, and grow from there.
Yeah, I think more than ever, and I said this yesterday, I'll say it again, you have to be creative. And I think you have been very creative at looking at ways of infiltrating yourself, trying to spend the least amount of possible on a project, right, to actually buy the property and do it creatively. And sometimes you'll even do joint ventures where you go to people, right? I think there's a project you guys worked on where you kind of came in and you said, you know what, we'll put the money to fix your vacant units because they usually run out of money or they don't want to outlay more cash, and then we'll set up a partnership, right? And so there's a lot of different ways to do this. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, listen, Curtis is the real deal. You guys need to talk to them and their partners there as well in the front row, Bonnie and Patrick as well. So they've built a very impressive portfolio and they're very, very creative at what they do. And I think sometimes as we get wealthier, it's just like, it's just easier for me to pay cash, or it's just easier to do this as well. The more creative you are, the more properties you're going to be able to own. Because at some point, banks are going to max you out. I don't know when, but usually they're like, oh, you have too many, because they look at you as a number. And so I think that's why you've been very successful, is because you look at the sort of the investors as well as the owners of these properties as partners. And I think that's what they like. All right, good job. Thanks, Curtis.
All right.